Good morning and welcome to our live crafting session this morning. My name's Jenny McCormac from Jemini Crafts. It's Monday morning here in the UK, 7th of April, beg your pardon, 2025, just after 10 a.m. And if you haven't come across me before, I am an independent Stampin Up demonstrator, and I run classes and coffee and card and online classes. I'm based in Brackley in Northamptonshire here in the UK, and I do 3 Facebook live sessions per week, which you can join either here on Facebook or you can join on YouTube as the videos get uploaded. Which reminds me, I need to do the one from Thursday evening. Do apologise. So here we go. Today's new stamp set is called Thankful Garden. You can see here it features a beautiful hydrangea and then another flower which I'm not quite sure what it is, whether it's a dog rose or something, I don't know. But it has some sentiments which are in a nice font. So we've got thankful for you, friend. We've got with love, you make a difference. And then you've got and thanks. You can have with love and thanks. And then you have some odd leaves and also some centres for the flowers that you can stamp over the detail. The nice thing about this set is it has some matching stencils for colouring in of the images. If you love colouring, then you can just stamp the image and colour in the normal way, whether that's watercolour pencils, whether it's inks and water painters, whether it's alcohol markers, your choice. But we do have some matching stencils. There are 5 altogether, and you can buy the stencils separately, and you can actually use the stencils completely on their own without the outline if you wish. They're just £13 for all 5 stencils, and that will do both of those flowers. But you can obviously combine it with this, and there is also a set of dies that cut out these elements as well, and you can buy the whole thing as a bundle, which includes the stencils if you wish. So I'm going to be using the stencils this morning because you've seen me stamp and colour many a time. Here's a couple of examples just using the stencils with and without the stamps. So I've got this one here which I've actually used the dies to cut that out. Let me move that out of the light. And then this one here. And then this one uses the stencils entirely on their own, and the good thing about that is you can reverse the stencils, so you can just excuse me, turn the stencil over and use it facing a different direction. Obviously if you're using the stamp, you would need to be able to stamp that in the other direction as well. So let's give this a go. I thought I would do the hydrangea, as all of these are the other options. It's quite a big stamp set. This is only 75% of the size, so when you open it up it's quite a bit bigger than you might expect, and you can see mine is rather well used. So I'm going to pop out the hydrangea and probably the with love set, and what I'm going to do is stamp it first and then use the stencils to colour in. So for coffee and card, which is this week, if you prefer to colour in, I'll bring the blends pens and you can do that. But if you prefer to use stencils and give it a go, morning Catherine, morning Caroline, then you can do that. I've chosen the Everyday Arches as a different shape die cut. What I didn't check is whether this would actually fit. And it will. So you could angle it whichever way you want. Like so, and I think then my love will fit in with love at the bottom. So what I'm going to do to start with is just stamp that image, and I'm going to stamp that with Early Espresso, my go-to colour. For those of you that like Pebbled Path, just a note that that colour is retiring, so if you want to buy any additional ink refill or cardstock, now would be the time to do it. Okay, so it's quite a big stamp, so I'm going to place it onto my large block, and I'm going to turn my ink pad over and ink it up that way. It's quite a nice fine line stamp, and it would definitely work for watercolouring, which reminds me I still haven't ordered watercolour paper. Right, let me pop this on here. I'm going to have it slightly high, hopefully, so I've got my space for With Love at the bottom. Yeah, it's not everybody's cup of tea, Catherine, and I think also it depends on how much pressure you've got with your hands, because sometimes people struggle with the pressure of the blend pens. Right, my With Love is going to go there, and because this is a hydrangea, I'm going standard hydrangea colours. So this is Highland Heather. I'm going to use Highland Heather and Gorgeous Grape. So let me grab the Gorgeous Grape ink and stamp the sentiment before I go any further. This is rather well used, this one. Let me make sure I've cleaned it. Yes, and this particular stamp set and masks is what I've used for our March class in a box, and everybody received a set of masks as part of their box. Oh, I've made that too wet. Okay, I'm just going to grab some grid paper. Yes, so I'd agree, it's easier to do tone on tone, so the same colour ink layered up. I had a feeling this was quite light. Okay, that will do. Just make sure I ink it up well. This is my spare set of inks. Okay, had plenty of space after all that. Okay. So that's at the ready. Let me clean that off. And put it away so I have it ready for coffee and card this afternoon. Okay. So I've got Highland Heather and I have Gorgeous Grape, and I've got, what have I got, green, Mossy Meadow I think, somewhere to hand. Now my blending brushes that I'm going to use are well used and still have ink on them here. So what I'm going to do is I always just try them out to see what colour is on there. Obviously this one hasn't got much on it, so I can just ink it up as I need. So there are 5 stencils and they are numbered 1 to 5. And what I'm going to do is fix this, first of all, to my grid paper, just so it doesn't move around, so I can get a sort of anchor position. And I could use some tape, which literally was in front of me. This one will do. Stampin' Up tape, just to hold it in position. Like so, there and there, a little bit like that. And then I'm going to take number 1. Now it's got a little mark on there, but normally what I do is I take a Sharpie, if I can find one. This is permanent, so this is number 1. and then I'll mark the other ones because it's quite difficult to see that line. Just going to do that now while I remember. Now you don't have to do these in this particular order if you don't want to. And then 5. So the last two do the leaves. Okay, so what I'm going to do is position this around the edge. And just take your time to find. Now I know that it's just slightly offset, and also the way I stamped it. So I'm lining that up around the edge, and then I'm going to use a pencil to mark this corner here, so that when I come to put the next stencil on, especially where it gets more complicated, where it's detail, all I need to do is worry about lining that up. Now you could also put a marker down here, okay, for the bottom. You don't need to do all 4. Okay, and if you don't want to hold that, you can use tape to help you with that as well. So if you want to concentrate on the colouring, then just use a piece of tape to hold it. Okay, so I've got a light Highland Heather ink pad here. So I'm going to pick up some ink and then just try it out on my paper. If it was too dark, I can take some of that colour out, and then I'm just using a circular motion to go over. Now what I've got to be careful of is that I don't go over the edge here, just because the way I've positioned it. So what you could do, if you wanted to be safe, is just put a piece of scrap card or fold a piece over and tuck it underneath. I'm just going, hopefully, just going to be careful not to go over the edge where it's on the card. If you were doing this on a plain piece and die cutting, it wouldn't matter if you went over the edges. Okay, so this is Highland Heather. Now you can use Highland Heather for all of the layers if you wanted to. Okay, let me lift that off, and what you can do is just flip it up to see how it's looking before you take it away. Let me lift that up to the screen. Okay, now we're going to take number 2. Now if you're doing multiples of the same and you're using the same colour, you don't need to wipe this down in between. At Coffee and Card, I will get everybody to wipe it down if the next person, for example, wants a yellow ink, because we don't want it going everywhere. So now what I'm going to do is take this piece here with the notch and line it up on here, line it up at the bottom. Okay, so you can see where it's going to go, and then I'm just going to grab that piece of washi tape up here, and now I can do the same thing. I can pick up the same ink or darker ink and just go over this, and this will then highlight the petal section of these. As I say, if you prefer to colour in, I will take blending brushes. Okay, let me lift that up so you can see, hopefully. Can you see how those petals are now standing out? What I am going to do is I'm going to make it a little bit darker. It's quite obvious on in front of me. It doesn't always translate to the screen, so I'm going to use a little bit of Gorgeous Grape. Take some of it off. Let's make sure I've got that in position again. And I'm just going to go over this. It's really just to give you a better idea. So circular motion. Just watch the edge if it's on the card. And now if I lift that away, I'm hoping you can see that in a bit more detail. Okay, then I'm going to take number 3. Now you don't have to do all 3, you could just leave it like that. But just put this one so you can see the effect. And again, just lining it up, which gets more important when you've got the detail, because it's a little bit more difficult to see where the detail might actually go. So I'm just using these edges here to line up, like so. Good morning, Brenda. Thanks for joining us. So I'll do this one. Now, if you think, okay, the petals aren't deep enough, you can of course go back to number 2 and add that if you wish. So you don't, as I say, you don't have to use all 3 layers in this case for the flower. If I lift that up, this is definitely one that looks much better in person than it does on the screen, because when I look on the screen it doesn't really look like anything at all. Okay, I'm happy with that. Let's hop on and just do the leaves quickly. So this is one of the 2 flowers, this is the other one. And this is it with it stamped with the image, and this is it with just the masks on their own. So you can do both of those. Right, so I've got 4 and 5, and again these, because I haven't moved any of this, I can just line the little notch up here with this notch. The leaves are pretty obvious. That goes without saying, because it's quite a defined leaf outline. Let's find that little piece of tape. Just hold it in place. And a bit of green. Let's see what I've got on here. And again, just be careful here. What I could do is just tuck that bit over. Okay, or I would put just a piece of post-it note in there, just so that I'm not getting ink over the edge of the mask, because they put 2 on 1, and I'm not die cutting this out. So there's 1 layer of Mossy Meadow, but you could use obviously Granny Apple Green, use whatever green you've got, Old Olive, Pear Pizzazz if you still have it, my favourite green ever. Okay, there's number 4. Let me lift that off. There we go. And then finally, for more detail, if you want it, number 5. I've got ink on my fingers, I can see that. Okay. Lining it up top and bottom. Let's put that back on there. And then adding the detail for the leaf. to make it a little bit more obvious so that you can see it, hopefully. There we go. Okay, let me lift that off. There we are. So I'm hoping you can certainly see the two-tone in the green, and then in person you can see the detail of the hydrangea. I'm not sure how much of that comes across on the camera though. And this is going to go onto a Highland Heather backing, like so, and then onto a white card. I think what I'm going to do is stamp a little bit of this hydrangea around the edge, and I'm just going to stamp it in Gorgeous Grape. You've also got the little leaves on a separate stamp, but I'm just going to ink this up. Now Gorgeous Grape, yeah, that's okay. I wasn't sure it was going to be too dark. Just gives us a little bit more interest. You could also do an embossed background, or you could choose some patterned paper that had a little bit of this colouring in. So just changing the angle each time. And then that little bit in there, like so. Okay, let's close that up, wipe the ink off my fingernails, and this is going to go on there. Just think that's really delicate and pretty. So let's grab a card. I've got a top opening card for this one, just for something different. So that's going to go onto there. I'm going to just add that with some straightforward glue, like so. So if you're wondering why you haven't seen this in a catalogue, that's because it's one of our online products. It has some gorgeous matching papers. For example, this one here. And you could fussy cut some of these elements out, which is what we've done for our March class in a box. Okay, that's going to go on there. I'm going to pop that up, I think, with dimensionals. And a tip that I shared recently on my class in a box videos is if you take a Sharpie or a marker pen and run a line across your dimensionals, when you pop them onto your item that you're lifting up, you can see whether or not you've taken off the backing. So if I put a normal one in the middle there, you can't always tell, and that way then you can see whether or not you've taken them. And you can use a pokey tool to lift these out as well if you want. Just sort of stab it and angle it, she says. And then you end up with them all on your pokey tool, and you can put those straight in the bin, and they don't float around quite as much. Okay, so that's going to go onto here. I'm going to have it sort of fairly central. Just checking the border left and right. There we go. And then the final touch is I'm going to stamp a little bit of that onto the envelope as well. Just the sort of tip and a little bit of flower of the hydrangea, I think. Make sure I've got the envelope the right way round. Grab my I'll use Gorgeous Grape, could use espresso. Picking that up, and then I'm just going to put this at a bit of an angle here, just for a little bit of interest, like so. And I could do the same on the inside of my card as well. Just pop that little bit of hydrangea in there. Like that. And if you wanted to colour it in, you could position your stencil accordingly. Let me just find number 1. So you need to take, obviously you haven't got the guidelines. Oh, that was lucky. That was very lucky. So if I just remember my little notches here, like so. So I can just add that little bit of detail to the inside. Just a light colour for the base. And then number 2, I know I've moved it slightly, haven't I? But where did I do my notch? It's up here somewhere. There we go. Just add that little bit in. So even though I've only got a part of this, you can still use the stencil. You just have to take your time to position it, because obviously you haven't got so much to work on. There we go. That's my inside. And card finished. So that's the hydrangea, and you could do the same with that obviously. And then this one is whatever this is. Dog rose or something. I'm sure somebody's going to tell me exactly what that flower is at some point. So I hope you like that. The stamp set is called Thankful Garden, and it's one of our online items. Let me find the stamp set. There it is. Okay, so there's the stamp set itself. It's £23 for the stamp set. As I say, they're big stamps, and the stencils are 13. And you can buy the bundle with the dies and the stencils all included for £62. So basically you're getting the stencils for less than £10. You can use the stencils exactly on their own, which is what I've done for our class in the box for this month. So you have lots of options for this. You could start with the stencils and then buy the stamps if you wanted to. So thank you so much for joining me this morning. Sorry about that reflection. The sun is beautiful, but I've had to shut the blinds so that we can see what we're doing. So I look forward to coffee and card this afternoon in Toaster, and tomorrow in Brackley, and on Friday in Brackley. So I hope you're able to join me at one of those. Thank you so much. This will be uploaded to YouTube probably later today, possibly tomorrow, because I've got one waiting to go. So thank you so much. Do take care, and bye for now.